So my saying is it's cool till it's not, because it is cool until the CFO gets involved and starts asking questions, and all of a sudden it's not. And so I think if you're not proactive in that, that phone call is going to come at some point.
You're listening to Built to Convert, the podcast where growth-minded marketers, founders, and creators come to level up. No hype, no guesswork, just bold insights that drive results. Let's go.
Hey guys, I'm Tyler Lane, founder of Session Interactive and host of Built to Convert. On this show, we talk with growth-minded leaders in healthcare, tech, finance, e-commerce, and from agencies, of course. We dive into how strategy, marketing, and analytics come together to drive real growth. And just a message from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Session Interactive. At Session Interactive, we help build brands and turn complex data into clear, actionable strategies to drive smarter growth. From SEO and analytics to paid media and content, we partner with forward-thinking companies to solve digital challenges and create opportunities. Learn more at sessioninteractive.com. All right. I'm not going to say I'm excited. Of course I'm excited, right? Every podcast
I'm excited.
who said that. You're excited. Exactly. Today, I'm excited, right? To have Paul Rakovich, founder of Clicks and Clients. Paul has been running high-performing paid media campaigns since 2003, managing accounts spending over $1 million a month. He's worked alongside marketing legend Perry Marshall and built a reputation for helping brands scale profitably and sustainably. Paul, great to see you, man. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me today. I appreciate it.
Awesome, of course. So just some background here. Paul and I are friends. We're in the digital marketing space here in Colorado. Maybe we're competitors, but we never really think about it like that. Yeah. We help each other out as needed.
Frenemies.
Frenemies.
I think it's there's enough to go around, and everyone's super supportive in town for the most part.
Totally.
Nothing.
Yeah, I love that. I love that your mentality, and just you've helped me along the ways too, of just understanding that, and people first and relationships are first too. Paul, let's give me the background in terms of the origin of Clicks and Clients.
Sure.
How to get started. Give me a quick overview there.
Yeah. So I was working in a restaurant, and I was having breakfast with a friend that owned a website called swim2000.com. And I was super intrigued by this. This would be like 2002 maybe. And he told me the story of how he sells like Speedos and things like that. And he couldn't necessarily go to Speedo and get a wholesale agreement. So he went to someone else selling Speedo, said, hey, give me a 10% discount. You fulfill my orders, drop shipping like back in the day. So I went home that night. I was super inspired, and I sent this guy an email, and I was like, hey, I would like a drop ship price list. He emailed me back, and I was like, all right, we're in business. So I started a Yahoo store that back when Overture was around before Google.
Yep.
And the first week, like no sales, like the dream has kind of died. And I went through to place an order, and I had the settings only to set to Canada to accept orders. So people were coming in, but like they couldn't get through the shopping cart. So changed that the next day, like first sale. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I got it to a point where it was pretty good. I couldn't leave my restaurant job, but it was like a really nice additional income. And I was talking to Perry Marshall one day, and I'm like, I'm buying this product now. So I did the same thing. I drop shipped, then I purchased wholesale. I went directly to the supplier, said, I'm already selling your stuff. Let me buy from you instead. And I went to Perry, and I was like, the supplier's kind of weird. And some days, like the salespeople like have me at the office, and I'm a VIP. And the next minute I'm getting a letter in the mail, like, who told you could sell our stuff? I'm like, I just bought it from you guys. So I said, hey, just go do this for other people. So that's where Clicks and Clients was started. I was managing Google Ads for other people. And then obviously, many moons later, here we are today. That's how it got going. Some e-commerce experience, learning on my own dime, studying under Perry, buying, like back then we were buying, I remember one specifically, it was like a binder, like how to do internet marketing, and a piece of software that would do this magic thing, which would email customers their tracking information. Like it's pretty cool. So,
Awesome.
Yeah, got some clients and just kind of kept the ball rolling, and have grown since then. But that's how it got going, like
Yeah,
back in the day.
impressive start, Paul. And it's just, Yeah, it's a testament to you and your commitment to clients. And that, back then there was no playbook, and there's some playbooks now, so to speak, but
Sure.
you're all self-taught. Correct?
If yeah, if the playbook's that good, someone's probably not selling it online for, you know.
Well, fast forward. I know you're in the throes of it, doing a ton of paid media work, analytics, and other items. I know some SEO as well. Um, when you're managing over 1 million a month, it's a lot of spend, of course, in terms of ad
Sure.
spend. What are the key metrics or signals you focus on first? I know, of course, cost per acquisition, return on marketing investment, et cetera. Talk to me about that. What are you seeing that is really essential for clients to understand?
I think the key is one of the keys, and there's many keys obviously, but getting past the first metric. So like a cost per lead or a cost per, initial action. Because what I see over and over and over again on these more complex accounts, is that, the cheap leads are cheap because they suck, right? They're cheap and you can get them even cheaper. But guess what happens like two or three steps down the process? And these other interactions initially that maybe on the surface are more expensive, there's often like a really good reason why they are. And so we're generally looking like two to three steps beyond an initial result. And I have it in my brain, like if it's cheap and if it's going too cheaply, like there's usually a reason why. And I'd say these companies that are spending $1 million a month, like these are business machines, right? So they are also amazing at what they're doing. And, we look really good because we're getting people in, optimizing a few steps in, but the machine behind that to then take those leads or those sales, is absolutely world class to be spending that much. So that's a big part of it too. But I think even spending less money, it's like optimized a couple steps in. Cheap leads are cheap because they stink. The thing with big ad accounts is like you could do everything, and you can slice and dice a million different ways, and then it becomes a dilemma of like, what do you actually do? So we could segment out every single state and build a campaign by state, and then we could separate iPhone and Android, and we could show older people this ad, younger people that ad. Um, but the question is like, what's going to actually improve the account? And so sometimes it's being super granular. Sometimes it's like, hey, let's just stick to a couple things. And other times, there's the move of like not doing anything and letting Facebook go. I think with those big account spends, we have a little more liberty to do that. So if we have some bad days or some bad weeks on these larger accounts, these clients are sophisticated enough to be like, hey, we didn't do good in Chicago, but we did good in Phoenix. Must have been an off week. You
Hmm.
know, let's keep the party going. So that's maybe something that's a little different in these large accounts is that we can let things smooth out. So we'll do often on these smaller accounts is we'll not rush to make a change. We'll not be in a huge hurry. And I'd say like probably 70, 80% of the time, like Facebook kind of can figure it out if you're feeding it enough data and things will usually smooth out. When it's a smaller spend, there's a lot on the line, you know, it really sucks to lose money, like letting that hang for a few more days or another week. That could be difficult.
Yeah, it could be detrimental to the brand too, if they especially
Yeah,
that budget.
especially if it doesn't recover, right? If it's bad day, you got three bad days. Was that statistically significant, or is that just three bad days? Because six, 7 bad days, like now maybe we have a pretty big problem.
Yeah, that's great. Classic paid media example, right, where the practitioners are obsessed with the platform and are not really understanding the entire life cycle of a client, or in terms of getting those leads in, right? But are they converting, right?
Yeah.
And what's the process that the brand is taking to nurture those leads or actively convert them? Talk to me about that a little bit about attribution and how you collaborate with brands to ensure that they're giving you the data, you're giving them the data, because like you see the leads
Yeah.
up, you need them to verify the quality.
Yeah. I think when in doubt, we just start measuring.
Mhm.
So like I think having more measurements, the better. And that's usually where we start with something like that. So it's great to have all the data. And with these large spenders, $1 million a month, we've got everything like start to finish, maybe even like too much data in some cases. People can get distracted. But I think the key is literally just start measuring. So we have a lead, awesome. And we know the cost per lead, awesome. Then those people book a meeting. All right. how many people show up to that meeting? How many people are qualified to the meeting? You know, and then you're dealing with salespeople, and do they want to update HubSpot? And it's a pain in the butt, and they just want really good leads. And I can't be wasted like can't waste time updating these. And if they're updating them, are they updating them correctly? But I find if we just start measuring and then we just kind of pull everything in, like usually something stands out. And so what I generally find is like 2 to 3 levels deep, there's some measure. So they became a lead, they booked a meeting, cool. They showed to the meeting, and maybe there's a quality measure of that meeting somewhere. And it's like just start measuring, just start measuring, just start measuring. And what I find is that on the paid side, we can influence quite a bit deeper into that funnel. Like a creative might get a good cost per lead, might get a good cost per meeting, but the way something's worded might tweak the quality rate of those meetings. So I think we can control it. We can't control it all the way through. Like, hey, salespeople are not doing a good job, or they could do a better job, or like we had an instance where people book meetings for a project, and a lot of the leads are older demo. So your typical like calendar invite, maybe they don't have a calendar, and maybe that's process isn't working. And so the salespeople initially go, gosh, these old people, the leads stink. And we might come back and go, well, maybe we need to get these people on the phone with
Give them some
someone to
op-
book the call. Yeah, maybe it's not, is it a strategy issue or execution issue?
Yeah. Yeah, a couple things come to mind from that. I mean, there's tough client conversations to have, especially if you're like, hey, we think we're doing everything in our power, and then ultimately, hey, we recognize there's a gap here with the sales team or their inability to convert those individuals. Talk to me like conversations that you have with brands, like
Yeah.
you're the agency. They're going to try to point the finger perhaps at you, but how do you have conversations to be like, hey, we need to be immerse ourselves deeper here. We need to also understand how these sales meetings are going, and then you evaluate the results. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, we got to go deeper. So it's a real fine line between like we need to change the process and I'm making an excuse to that's the easy answer from the team because it's not working and they want to blame it on someone else. So I often find the clients are right. A good majority of the time, like they're usually pretty right. And so I'm leery of these quick, we got to change the landing page or we need to change the flow or, you know, we got to do more follow up or they're not doing SMS. We got to get that in. And then if we get it in, it's great. I think, you know, I think it's a real fine line between that. I generally revert back to they're probably right. We had a real early client that the team just didn't like, and he was difficult, and he was difficult. No question about it. And those are challenging. But the reality of it was like he was right. We There were some things that weren't working well, and he was right. And so if we just would have said, "Hey, he's a jerk," or "He's being difficult," his delivery was a little tough. But the fact of the matter is, he was right. So we ended up hanging on to that client for 10 years. Um, that the team would have said he's difficult, let's get rid of him. And 10 years lifetime value of that, as you can imagine, is a pretty good chunk of change. And so I generally take the mindset of like, they're probably right. Maybe the delivery's off. Maybe they don't have all the facts. But I tend to lean that direction before I go into, oh, we just got to update the landing page and there's a lot of friction on the page. The call to action buttons twice and people are getting confused.
Mm.
Uh, It's kind of like these CRO audits. Everyone's got these great ideas, but like, what does that actually mean? So I tend to lean with like, I think they're probably right, but maybe there's some communication to figure out or some diving deeper here.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, good for you. So, classic example here, you've heard it a million times. If this works, we're going to pour more money onto it, right? What
Red flag.
right? What would you say the biggest mistakes you see brands make when trying to scale paid media? I know there's that immediate gratification. Oh my God,
Sure.
it's working. Let's pour gas on it, so to speak. What would you see some of the mistakes are that maybe that you've interacted with, or you've
Mhm.
evaluated brands that have done this with previous agencies before they've gotten with you guys?
I have a saying with the team, like it's always cool till it's not. So when someone comes in and the brand's like, hey, we just want to do this. And we're like, man, this is like pretty expensive. Like, doesn't matter, we're just acquiring customers. and we're just expanding the brand, just keep going, keep going. So my saying is it's cool till it's not, because it is cool until the CFO gets involved and starts asking questions, and all of a sudden it's not. And so I think if you're not proactive in that, that phone call is going to come at some point. And whether or not that's, hey, another agency came in and says this is bad, or a CFO comes in, or a new investor comes in and starts asking difficult questions, I think those calls are going to come at some point. So I have that in the back of my mind. In terms of like mistakes that they make in scaling, you know, not having clean data,
Mhm.
not measuring a couple steps deeper, um, just being driven by the wrong goals. I don't see brand awareness stuff working. I don't see those plays working. I see a lot of spend go into it, and every single time I see those things get cut.
Mm.
So I would say that's a mistake. And then also experimentation. So we didn't get to $1 million right away. In fact, on the first one that ever was that big, we were spending about 50, 60,000 a month. And we came to them pretty proud, like we've doubled the spend. And when we got to the office, they said, "Hey kids, you guys are nice, but we spent $2 million last month on TV and 1 million on radio.
Wow.
And if you don't come back and spend more money, uh, like nice knowing you." And so they were really patient in figuring things out and making mistakes and trying different things. Their appetite to try stuff with a clearly defined like end goal, I think is a real differentiator between like, yeah, let's just let it rip.
Hmm. Oh, that's awesome. It's a great feedback, great breakdown. Let's back up here. Perry Marshall. That's how you
Sure.
get him, and as a testament, and how you got really started working closely with him. What's a couple of principles or one that sticks out in terms of what you've learned from him and how he still shapes how you operate today? I know he's prominent with the 80/20 rule and a variety of other things. I'm curious your thoughts.
Yeah, I was in an initial group called the Bobsled Run, and I think it was like if you paid a little extra, Perry would coach you. And what we did was we tore down each aspect of the e-commerce business back then each week. And so his real principle, I mean, one of the principles is like incremental improvement adds up. So the bobsled run way back in the day, I'm sure it doesn't exist anymore. It was like, all right, Mr. E-commerce or Miss E-commerce owner, let's rip apart email this week. Okay, um, let's rip apart the shopping cart. Let's rip apart ad copy. Let's rip apart speed of the website. And so I still hold that pretty dear of incremental improvements. We're working on a project that's going okay, but it's about 20% off where it like really needs to be. And so instead of trying to find this like magic win of, we need this creative to just pop, we started to think of incremental improvements. And
Mm.
so we went back to page speed. How can we speed the page up? We went back to conversion API. How can we push more data, get a better score in our conversion API? And the idea is, yes, sometimes you find these beautiful creatives that pop and the account's awesome and you're a hero, but
Mm.
really it's this kind of grind of like incrementality over the course of three or four different things is really going to add up and improve the account. So I think that's a really big Perry piece that still like was with me yesterday. Like, gosh, what if we just sped this page up? Could we get 2% more? And over this pretty significant spend, like that's a lot of money. Um, so that's a big piece from Perry that's still stuck with me to today, for sure.
Isn't it funny, just like those core principles? I mean, you've been doing this longer than I have for sure, but I mean, we've been in the game for a while, and it's like you revert back to some of those core principles, and you're like, they still work, and you know,
Yeah,
it's not a we're not trying to game the system or anything. We're just trying to benefit users at the end of the day. So that's good.
constant work,
Totally.
constant work. And whenever I'm stuck, it's like, wait a second. How about
Well,
just speed the page up?
speed this page.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see.
Worst
Obviously,
case, it does nothing,
no, I know,
right? It's not going to make it worse.
right?
So we got nothing to lose.
I love it. I mean, it's the usability components, tweaking CRO items to, I hate to fixate on just individual tactics. We want it to have a really comprehensive strategy and a
Yeah.
roadmap, but to educate us. But yeah, that's really great to hear. Obviously, Paul, I'm a big fan of yours and what you guys do at Clicks and Clients. You know, let's go over a success story, a case study that you're proud
Yeah.
of. of late. Pick a channel, pick an industry. I'm curious. I'd love to kind of hear what worked well and what the challenge was, and ultimately what the outcome was.
Yeah, do you want recent or you want like the glory story of taking it to $1 million?
Yeah, it's totally up to you. Yeah, totally up to you. It doesn't have to be recent.
We'll give you both if I can talk quickly.
Sure,
So
sure.
the really interesting thing when we left that office, I didn't think we were coming back, right? So we had scaled the spend, we doubled the spend, and they're like, "Look, kids, you're really nice, but don't come back."
Yeah.
So what they told us was we were targeting too small of an audience. And we're like, well, what you don't understand is there's only so many people in Facebook that like this kind of thing, and it's a limited market, and we can't possibly do it. And so they said, no, no, you need to target a couple million people in a given city. And I'm like, well, that's crazy because we had all these reasons why it wouldn't work, right? So he's like, just do it. And so so we went from spending about $5,000 on this typical run to around 20,000, and our cost per lead went from $50 to quite a bit higher. And his reply back was, cool, now we need to solve for the next problem. And so I thought, okay, we're not fired yet. We still got a little life left.
Yep.
And I started looking at the display ads that these display guys were doing, and they're so bad. It was like breaking every single rule. It was like, don't put features, put benefits, right? And it was like the exact opposite of every single thing you should do. But they're spending well over $1 million a month. And I thought, you know what? I got nothing to lose at this point. I'm probably going to get fired. Let's just riff on these ads. And we did an ad with the city skyline in it for each given city. And so it went 60,000, 300,000, a million the following month. It peaked at almost 2 million. And it was just this one simple idea of like, this thing that doesn't appear to be working should work. And now it's working. So that was like the big aha moment.
Yeah.
From there, it was like testing the daylights out of everything. And yeah, their take was if we get one golden nugget in a given year, that pays for you guys so many times over. So they would experiment. And there was a lot of times where they'd come back and I'd say, hey, we tried this. We only spent $10,000. It wasn't working. And they would get upset. They go, well, what are you talking about? It's only $10,000. Like, that's not enough money. That's not enough data. There's not statistical significance.
Mm-hmm.
They go, we don't want to waste your money. We don't want to waste your money. And so we were still very respectful, but we push ourselves as well. So that one, $1 million a month is crazy because like you go to lunch and you come back and you hit refresh and the numbers are quite a bit different. So that one I'm still really proud of because not just of the spend, but we partnered together. That client made us better. We made them better. They really respected what we were doing, and it was an awesome relationship. An awesome relationship. And the one other funny caveat to that, not funny really, but one caveat to that is one weekend we ran some video ads and we made a mistake and we spent a lot of money, like a lot of money. And so I called the client up and he's like, how bad? 10,000? Like, no. 20? Mm-mm.
Keep going.
50? No. He's like, oh my gosh. So $70,000. And he said, I don't know if I can save this, but I appreciate you making the call and I'll get back to you. And so they had a meeting and the owner was like, these guys screwed up. They should pay for it. And he said to them, you know what? They're a small company and we can make him do it. And knowing him, I know he'll do it, but we're probably going to put him under. And I think they're more valuable to us if we teach them a lesson long term. So I did cover a significant portion of it that hurt quite a bit.
Sure.
But that one really sticks with me to this day. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, overspends are always
Oh, don't launch a campaign on Friday. Just don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. And then you do it.
Yeah.
If you do it, you better be checking it Saturday morning and Saturday afternoon. But yeah, don't launch a campaign on Friday. That's a core tenet.
I love that breakdown though, Paul. I mean, you mentioned what resonated with me is just the, simple tactic around just custom imagery or unique imagery for that individual location, right? Age old, like how do we customize this for a location? We do that for our clients or our brick and mortar clients. it's funny, just those core principles often get mixed or missed rather, and a template goes
Try
off.
and get too QT and try and get too complicated. And, hey, bring it back, bring it back. And then sometimes break the rules, right? Uh, don't put benefits in it, put features. Well, that doesn't make any sense. But when
Yeah.
we break that rule, for some reason it worked.
Well, the
So
client I mean, clearly you had established a quality foundation with them and rapport, obviously through performance, but
yeah,
they allowed you to test, they allowed you to experiment, and that's why we're in this, right? To do fun stuff, to learn, and obviously develop deeper relationship through performance. So that's awesome.
yeah,
Love that.
it was cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So
Uh,
that one, yeah, that was a bit ago,
yeah. Yeah.
but they're
Jim,
still around. They're still a client.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey, retention. I love that.
right.
All right. Switching gears here a little bit.
Yeah,
Pretty classic too is just what do you, I know obviously the world is abuzz with AI and you and I are both adopting it. We're both bullish on it. We understand
love it.
application, right? But we're not pretending that it's going to save everything and that we're out of business tomorrow and that everyone's going to be automated, but
Yeah.
not related to AI necessarily, but more on the ad platform. What do you think are like a platform or a particular tactic that's overrated right now, that you think you've tested or you're just like this? I
Mm,
don't even want to test, for example.
interesting. Overrated. Overrated. Well, Facebook keeps making it more difficult. I think overrated would be Advantage Plus on Facebook. So it's really the easy button. And you log into those, when you log in, it gives you that error message that says you could have a 30% higher conversion rate if you go to Advantage Plus. And so we could, but because we're looking like 2 to 3 steps down funnel, the largest spender in particular, when we put on an Advantage Plus, the spend goes to old people and young people. They're less valuable. So sure, they're cheaper, but we end up we'll get that phone call like the leads aren't very good lately. So I think Advantage Plus with Facebook like is not there yet. I can't stand it. I use it in a couple of rare cases, um, but it's just not there yet. It probably will be at some point, but today, in terms of like overrated, especially it's saying like it's going to make our life easier. It's so much better. Uh, Advantage Plus, and now they're getting really sneaky with like you put an age range in and it's a suggested age range, or you put a geographic location in and that's even suggested unless you unclick a button. So I think the overrated piece on that specifically about saying like it's going to do 30% better, like kind of, but not driving an end business goal. And that's where it's missing at the moment. It's, getting those cheap leads or the leads that we don't want for this project in particular, and most of them, to be quite frank. There's a few places we have it on where it makes sense, e-commerce specifically, where it seems to kind of sort of work. And at the end of the day, like if we get the sale, we get the sale. And maybe Facebook can be a little smarter than us, but on other projects where we're generating a lead or a meeting or things further down, I think Advantage Plus is like just not there. And it's super annoying that they keep trying to force it down our throat in terms of like duplicating accounts and turning it on and kind of hiding these settings and being real sneaky about it.
The classic kind of platform upsell that
We'll help you. Yeah, we'll make it easier. Yeah. PMAX.
next. So yeah, exactly. Conversations, no doubt.
It'll
Uh,
get there,
yeah. Well,
but it's not there today.
one thing I'm curious about is just, you've been in business, you've built a successful agency, and again, switching gears here, just around building a strong team, right? What is that
Yeah,
you? And I think, we've all made mistakes. We all want to learn from our mistakes. We all really fixate on quality onboarding and stay in
sure.
reviews and reviews, things like that. But I'm curious, like, any lessons from hires that went really well and are with you currently, and any that perhaps went sideways? Maybe you can reflect on some of those. You don't have to call anyone out. It's just
Yeah. Go to their LinkedIn. That's I
it's
had a call with an employer that left 5 years ago that wants to come back, and to me that was just really special to chat with him. So I think it's all done in the small moments, and it's not done in like a 360 review, and it's not done in a weekly meeting. Like all the small moments and connecting with people. And I think when I've struggled with that, my wife at times has said like, would you want to be working for this guy that like messages you on GChat? It's like, hey, what's going on why is this campaign doing bad? It's like, oh yeah, I guess that probably not great. So I think it's building relationships in the small moments. We've tried a lot of different stuff. We tried a lot of the employee surveys and things like that. And I don't know if you've had this experience, but other founders, you get these replies back and it's like, uh, I'm not having a good week because we don't have pistachios anymore in the break room. And it's like, oh my gosh, here we are killing ourselves. And I can't even, again, I can't get the snacks right. And so it's easy to become kind of cynical that way. But I think it does go back to that difficult client as well, where it's like, well, maybe they're right, about something. And maybe the delivery is a little off, or they can feel like there's a sense of entitlement or, but like take a step back. Like, to me, it all comes down to the relationships. Even ones that did not go well. There was one that did not go well, for example, in ending, an employee stole a client, like left some proof of it. And we patched it up. The life's too short and he's a good person. There's enough business to go around. It was certainly, according to the handbook, definitely not the right thing to do. And um, there was a difficult moment out of it, but making it more difficult for what, and so I still talk to this person regularly. We still check in and following his family and his career, and I think that's the big piece. So maybe zooming out, kind of overall as a topic, like zooming out relationship wise is that to me, that's what I'm focused on at the moment, at least.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, just I mean, at the end of the day, it's like you want to ensure that you can try to that the employee has articulated their goals, right, and you've correctly defined the job description,
Yeah,
and
right.
intertwine. We kind of take a similar tack just in terms of the relationships, but the career growth components. Like, great if you're a fit, if this adheres to your goals, let's get you to where you need to be at
Yeah,
agency. If you're not the fit, and it's there's not a role for you at the agency, let's get you to a place outside of the agency where you can be successful. And you never know, right?
yeah, you never know. But we've created roles too. Uh, One of my favorite employees,
Mm.
we would sit down for lunch each year, and he'd say, "This is how much money I want to make, and this is what I think you need to do." And I go, okay, go. And he did it. Like he's the reason we're doing Facebook ads today, really. He was doing Google ads. He's like, these are boring. This Facebook thing's kind of cool. They have these ads on the right-hand side. Like, I think we should do Facebook ads. And I was like, what's this crap? Uh, so this is for kids, yeah. And so those conversations, that's why we're doing Facebook ads 10 years later from those chats. So I think it's just personal.
Mm.
Take a step back.
I love it. I love it. Uh, well, Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, and I appreciate your insights and your guidance to me over the years too, personally and professionally. It doesn't go unnoticed, so just want you to be.
Thank you.
Um, where can people find you? Obviously, I'd love go over your website,
Yeah.
uh, any particular details, and talk about some of the services that you really pride yourselves in as well.
Yeah. Clicksandclients.com is the website. What's really good fit for us are projects where it's already sort of working. So it's like a CMO's in place. Maybe they've got a marketing coordinator. We're getting leads, we're getting meetings. That's the real sweet spot for me. That's where I like to dive into. Starting something from scratch, brand new, is pretty difficult. Super established, they've got an in-house team or they've been through a bunch of agencies. We do those projects too, but I really, really like the ones where it's like, it's working. We need that next level of expertise to take it to the next level. And I can come in and I can see like, oh, yeah, some of these, like, I'll just lick my chops, like, oh, just let me in there, and I know I can make this better. So those are the projects that I really enjoy.
I love it. Yeah, that's great. Looks like my camera died, so you got a different view of me right now, which is always funny.
All good.
Well, awesome, Paul. Thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on today.
Thanks for listening to Built to Convert. If you're serious about growth, don't just listen. Subscribe, leave a review, and follow us for new episodes that drop straight into your feed. Until next time, keep building.